Bronny James and his dad playing together on the same court for the Los Angeles Lakers against the Phoenix Suns on Sunday. Teammates. It's not exactly Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr. Got to be honest with you. It's more if Pete Rose had played with Pete Rose Jr. at the same time, but history made nonetheless, father and son. It's pretty wild to think that LeBron has had such longevity in his 22nd year in the NBA that he could just play long enough, and not just play long enough, but still be really damn good. Whatever you think about LeBron James, and I have said many times, the GOAT is Michael Jordan. Get out of here with any suggestion that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. But having said that, LeBron is playing at a higher level at an older age than any basketball player ever. It's just a fact. And yes, modern technology and medicine and everything that we know now is a huge component of that. But the guy really is a physical outlier to be able to do this. And now achieving his dream, which he's talked about for a long time, of one day playing with his son. So that's the happy part of this. The not so happy part of this is where Bronny goes from here. Once the initial sunshine fades away from this moment and we get to real life and it's the NBA schedule and we start seeing how Bronny stacks up against NBA players, I don't know that it's going to be such a feel-good story. ESPN.com with a feature piece a few days ago about Bronny, and it had quotes from a lot of unnamed NBA scouts and executives, and they weren't real positive. The reports on Bronny, things being said like he has ideal intangibles, but he lacks in talent. Secondary prospect at best. G League player. One who was, I assume, trying to be a little nicer, said Bronny would be a really good 4-year college player. And of course, we know he was a 1-year college player, playing only 25 games with USC last year, averaging just under 5 points a game, just under 3 rebounds a game, and 2 assists a game. The Summer League didn't go a lot better. Bronny shot 33%. That's down from the 37% that he shot at USC. He averaged 7 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists a game during the Summer League. And look, I don't want to be mean because he seems like a really nice kid. But in the debut game, his dad had 19 points in 16 minutes. Well, that's just LeBron being LeBron. Bronny, in 13 minutes of play, took 1 shot. It was a 3-pointer. He missed it, finished with 0 points, 4 turnovers, and 3 fouls. It's going to be rough sledding for Bronny James in the NBA. I don't know that the young man has the ability. Rich Paul, LeBron's agent, said that it was Bronny's decision and Bronny's decision only to go into the draft and go pro. They told him, they asked around the league, they went to him, says Rich Paul, and said, hey, look, you're probably not going to get drafted in the first round, and it's possible that you're not going to get drafted at all. Bronny said, all I want is to hear my name called. And he did hear it called because his dad is basically the de facto general manager and head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. And that's what he wanted, and that's what he got. And Bronny probably would not have been drafted had it not been for his father. But here he is, at least temporarily, in the NBA. Now, can the Lakers afford to roster this kid? How much are they going to indulge LeBron in this matter? He belongs in the G League. He needs development. The unnamed NBA exec who said he needed 4 years of college, and he would have been a good 4-year college player. But that didn't happen because even though they say Bronny wanted it, and maybe he did, he's a young man, and how could he not be influenced by what his father wants? He knows that this has been his father's dream. Is he going to tell his dad, hey, Dad, I don't think I'm ready for the NBA. I need more seasoning. I would benefit from playing maybe 3 more years of college basketball, at least one. He didn't have to make the decision to play 4 years of college, but it seems like it would have been a relatively easy decision after putting up such pedestrian numbers at USC to stick around, maybe transfer somewhere else. We're living in the Wild West of college athletics now, and he could have gained what he needs. And now he should go and attempt to gain what he needs, like a lot of fringe NBA players in the G League. But we'll see if he gets that opportunity or if his dad is bound and determined that his son can acquire those skills while riding the bench at the NBA level. When I was a kid, I grew up lower middle class. My mom worked at Walmart. My mom worked at Dairy Queen. There were people who were worse off than me. This isn't a sob story, but I was a lower middle class kid from rural Kentucky. And whenever I looked at the rich kids, there was a little jealousy there. Some of y'all probably can relate to that. When you would see your friends who had things that you didn't have, or who had things handed to them kind of on a silver platter that was just outside the means of your family. And these things are all relative. Hey, listen, there were other kids, other families that probably could have looked at me and been jealous of some of the things that I had. We've all heard the saying that the person on the bike looks at the person that has a car and says, I wish I had that. And the person that's on foot looks at the person on a bike and says, well, I wish I had a bike, etc. But I was always jealous of the kids that I thought had everything handed to them on a silver platter. But you know what? If I had been in that situation where it had been handed to me on a silver platter, I probably wouldn't have felt guilty about having it. It's a matter of perspective. And as I've said before, whatever you think of LeBron, and LeBron is a little bit of a lightning rod in terms of his personality and in terms of a lot of the stances he takes in public and so forth. Bronny seems like a humble, good kid. And the one thing that these NBA executives, who, again, all unnamed in this article, said about him is that he's a hard worker and that he's a good kid, that he does possess the intangibles. But, and it's a big but, when the thing that comes after it, it's a big but that Sir Mix-a-Lot would appreciate, when you say doesn't have NBA talent or may not have NBA talent. Because at the end of the day, that's going to be what matters. 6-year NFL veteran and a very talented broadcaster. He is the host of the opening drive on Sirius XM Radio, as well as the Believe in Bengals podcast. I'm speaking of Solomon Wilcots, who I welcome to the program. Solomon, how are you this morning?
Hey, Ricky, doing great this morning and good to be on with you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to have you. Look, I've got to ask you, you're an Emmy-winning broadcaster. Here's my question for you. Where do you keep the Emmy?
It's on a desk somewhere here in my office. And look, it's a really quite an honor. There's no doubt about it. But it's well and present. People walk into the office is one of the things that sort of stands out. I wish I had a Super Bowl trophy to replace it, but I'll take what I can get.
Pretty good. I'll never win one, but if I ever did, I would put it right here next to Walter, and I would make sure that everybody knew every moment of my life that I was an Emmy winner. So, Solomon, you went to Colorado. You're a proud Colorado Buffalo, and certainly things have been more interesting in the past couple of years in Boulder than they have been for some time, because Deion is captivating. Whether people like it or not, your eyes are drawn to Deion and what he says and what he does. He's got this team 4-1 right now. They got a big conference game with Kansas State in Boulder this weekend. What do you think of the job that Deion has done so far in his brief tenure, but still packed with a lot of excitement since he has taken over the program?
Look, before he came, remember, we only won one game. We were like, 1-11? We couldn't win any games. We were hurting as a program. We had never seen this kind of lull in the program history since it began. And so not only did he immediately restore the energy surrounding the program, and I always tell people, I think if you pay attention to college football, there's two scorecards. There's one with the money, right? Because you got to be able to fill stadiums, you got to be able to sell merchandise, you got to be able to drive enrollment, right? If your football team is winning, your enrollment's high because the students want to go to football games. They see a game on television and say, Mom, I want to go to school there. That's what Deion brought to the University of Colorado. Sold out all the hotels, all the stadiums, all the luxury suites. So we're winning at the cash register, even though we didn't go to a bowl game in his first season. He sold out the entire inventory. He brought this excitement back to the program and made people feel proud about the program again, made people want to attend school in Boulder, Colorado, because maybe they hadn't seen it in a long time. And he brought a certain energy that I think is palpable. Now we got to start winning some games, and he's doing that with a 4-1 record as we're returning to the Big 12, because we were once there and now we're back again. And I think Travis Hunter, the energy and the star power that he brings to the program, I think it's simply been phenomenal. How can you not be excited about this football program and what Deion has done in a very, very short period of time?
You mentioned Travis Hunter. We've talked a lot in recent years in baseball about Shohei Ohtani, and this guy's an elite hitter and he's an elite pitcher, and we never thought that we would see that again. Babe Ruth was 100 years ago, and we thought we were past those days. We got this guy playing both sides of the ball. Solomon, you know what it takes as well as anybody to play in the NFL at the secondary position. You were a safety, of course. How can you speak to, even at the high levels of college football, how difficult it is to do what he's doing as a two-way player?
Man, I think, look, and we've seen guys try to do this, but he's almost a full-time player on both sides of the ball, which is almost unheard of, because the horsepower that you have to have and the cardiovascular system that you have to have, all the science shows that you reach a certain level of exhaustion physically, and now you're more prone to injury. So it would suggest that if you're a guy who's going to play both ways, major college football, by the time you hit about 65 snaps within the game, now you're prone to pulling muscles, you're prone to break down, you're not operating at optimal levels in terms of your speed and your explosive ability. But this guy continues to do it, not only for a game, but week after week, game in and game out. It remains to be seen if you could do that at the NFL level, because the exertion, games are longer, you play in more plays, right, on each side of the ball. So it remains to be seen if you could do that at the NFL level. But it's very impressive what Travis Hunter is doing at the college level, playing at an elite level on both sides of the ball. You could say he's an All-American receiver. You can also say he's an All-American corner. And that's why I think he should be at the head of the class when you talk about winning a Heisman. I think it would be unique, and I think it would make the Heisman Trophy that much more, I think it would make it more appealing. And I think you would inspire so many more kids to do what Travis Hunter is doing. He's helping his team, and he's helping his team win games, and I think at a ratio and at a rate far beyond what any other player is doing for their team right now.
I agree with you. He would get my Heisman vote at this point if I had one, just because it's so remarkable. And I think he's great for football for the reasons that you said, Solomon. You're wearing your Bengals gear here today. Let me go ahead and pivot and ask you about the pro team that you're most associated with. A rough start, 1-4 in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow was visibly frustrated, I think, after that Ravens comeback, where the Ravens, came back and got him, a game that Cincinnati probably really should have won. What do you make of the state of the Bengals right now, 5 games into this long season?
Disappointing, surprising. No one saw this coming. And the reason why it's particularly disappointing is because when you have a franchise quarterback, you expect to win. But this goes to show you that our game it goes beyond one player. Joe Burrow could not be playing any better, other than the fact that he threw an interception as opposed to the 5 touchdown passes he had against a really good Baltimore Ravens defense. He had a career-high 5 touchdown passes. He has the second best completion percentage right now of any quarterback in the NFL. His passer rating and touchdowns of 12 in 5 games are the highest of any quarterback right now in the National Football League. And the Bengals are scoring at the second fastest rate in terms of efficiency of any offense in the NFL. They've scored on 53% of their drives. That's a scoring drive percentage of 53%, second only to the Washington Commanders. You can't ask a quarterback to do more than what Joe Burrow is doing for the Cincinnati Bengals. He said going into the Week 5 game against Baltimore that he was going to have to be perfect, and he was right, because his lack of perfection, I guess, is the one thing that kept him from winning the game, not to mention the holder on what could have been a game-winning field goal from Evan McPherson. The holder couldn't hold it, and next thing you know, the Baltimore Ravens are riding off with a win in overtime against the Bengals. But no, Joe Burrow is playing lights out, but the Bengals defense has let the team down. The special teams has let the team down, and that's why, despite stellar play at the quarterback position, they find themselves only 1-4.
Solomon, speaking of lights out quarterback play, Jaden Daniels has been phenomenal through the first 4 games. And the first time I heard this statistic, I couldn't believe it was right. But through the first 4 games of the Commanders season, they had more scoring drives than Daniels had incomplete passes. And I had to double check that to make sure that was right, because he was completing over, I think it was 82% of his passes through the first 4 games of the season. And of course, Week 5, he had a few incompletions. He looked a little more human Week 5, but it was still a big win for Washington. Yeah. What do you think of what you're seeing out of this kid so far? Because it seems like we've got a CJ Stroud situation, one of those rare guys that just transitions straight into the NFL and doesn't skip a beat.
Yeah, I think it's been very impressive. I think his poise and his patience and confidence under pressure is what's been most impressive. You don't normally find this in a rookie quarterback, where the game's not too big for him, where complex blitz schemes aren't too big for him, where there's some confusion and maybe a moment of panic where the ball just throws up in the air and lands in the hand of the other team. He's not playing with that. He's playing with confidence. He's playing with the kind of poise you don't normally see with a rookie quarterback. But this is, I think, you got to give a lot of credit to Cliff Kingsbury, the offense coordinator. The run game coordinator Anthony Lynn deserves a lot of credit too, because they run the higher percentage of RPO, run pass option plays, of any offense in the league. That means they brought a lot of the college game into this offense and allowing him to use some of the same reads that he used when he was playing at LSU. They run a high percentage of play action pass. So they're running the ball at the greatest efficiency of any team in the NFL, and their run production is second only to the Baltimore Ravens, the team they happen to be playing this upcoming week in week 6. So when you can run the ball that effectively and that efficiently, and then you're using play action pass and RPOs, what's happening, you're pulling the secondary defenders out of coverage. You're getting them to have to commit and play the run and having it be a present part of what it is they have to do to defend the offense. And what it does is it gives you, I think, better time in terms of your protection of the quarterback. It gives the receivers at the second level just one more step to get separation at the top of their routes. And it declares coverages so much more easier for your quarterback. This is maybe what a lot of these teams should be doing when you have a rookie quarterback. Give them a little bit of what they saw in college, as much as you can, to allow them to flourish in a familiar environment while you start to add some of the more professional things that they're eventually are going to have to learn: how to play from the pocket, how to read blitzes, how to read coverages. But I think what they've been able to blend in is some of the things he did in college at LSU and make that a staple part of the offense. Defenses are going to adjust as we go on. He'll have to evolve and grow in some of these other areas. But right now, I think you would have to credit the way they're running the football and the efficiency in which they're running the ball. That's helping him. I will say this: his own poise and patience under pressure, that's something you can't teach. And I think that's what he should be given credit for in terms of what he brings to the table.
Great start in Washington with a rookie quarterback, a rough start in New York with a legendary quarterback, and the Jets making the decision to fire Robert Saleh after 5 games, 20-36 in his tenure in New York. Obviously a big disappointment. The friction, the possible friction between he and Aaron Rodgers, that of course Aaron Rodgers and Saleh both denied in the media. How much that played a role, we don't know for sure, but NFL teams generally don't like to switch head coaches mid-season. What do you make of this, pretty dramatic move there by the Jets to switch coaches not even a third of the way into this season?
Look, I know there's going to be a great temptation for people to lay this at the feet of Aaron Rodgers. I'm not absolving Aaron from where this thing is, because his fingerprints are in it. He's not the one who decided to fire Robert Saleh. Neither is Joe Douglas, by all reports. This is all on the owner, Woody Johnson. Remember when Robert Saleh was hired before the start of the 2021 season, Woody Johnson was serving as the ambassador to England. He was over in London, right? Having a good time over there with his good friends. And now when his team goes back over to London and they lose to the Minnesota Vikings, I got to do something about this. I'm the guy who can fix it. And by all accounts, it's arbitrary that he decided, I'm going to make this move because I got to fix it. I don't want to waste the years of Aaron Rodgers. But I can tell you right now, when that game had concluded over in London, you know what really was the problem? The offense. It's an offense with Nathaniel Hackett as the coordinator, Aaron Rodgers as the co-offensive coordinator, that decided they were going to call 108 pass plays over the last 2 games, including a game against the Denver Broncos where it was windy and rainy and the conditions didn't even lend itself to throwing the ball, but they caught 54 pass plays in that game. They threw the ball another 54 times over in London against the Minnesota Vikings. So that's 108 pass plays called compared to 37 run plays called over those 2 games. 8 sacks on Aaron Rodgers, 3 interceptions, including a pick six. He threw 2 interceptions in the first quarter. But yet, we're going to fire the head coach because he's brought in this great defense. By all accounts, Robert Saleh's defense is playing at a top level, one of the top-rated defenses in the National Football League across all the metrics in terms of pass rush pressure and coverage. Over the last 3 years, they ranked 6th overall in points allowed per game. So when that game ended over in London, we were all concerned about what are we going to do to fix this offense. And even as we sit here today, after the firing of Robert Saleh, that problem still exists. Nothing's changed, right? What are we going to do to fix the New York Jets offense? Because last I checked, Nathaniel Hackett's still calling the plays, and he's still calling the plays that Aaron Rodgers wants to run. No motions, no shifts, no camouflage of the plays for the defense. Defenses get to just tee off on this offensive line. They're not making it easy for anybody. We heard Garrett Wilson say this last week. The offense lacks imagination. There's no creativity. And as we sit here today after the firing of Robert Saleh, those things remain true. So Woody Johnson didn't accomplish anything other than getting rid of a head coach for the appearances of change. But nothing here really has changed.
Solomon, we are now 5 weeks of regular season action into the year. What are your thoughts so far on the dynamic kickoff?
What's dynamic about it? I don't see anything dynamic about it. I don't see anything. I don't see anything that makes me stick around and watch. In fact, after my team scores and they're getting ready to run off the kickoff team, I'm going to get a beer. I'm going to get a beer because I already know when I come back, they're going to be putting the ball at the 30-yard line and the offense is going to be jogging out. The defense is going to be jogging out. There's no life. There's no pulse, no energy to this play. I get it. I'll give them credit. They're trying something. I'm just here to tell you it's not working. Okay. It's a moment where you kind of hit a reset button before the offense and defense take the field because there's nothing of note happening on this play unless you're, the San Francisco 49ers. They lost their kicker, Jake Moody, trying to make a tackle on the dynamic kickoff. So I guess that's one thing I can say that's dynamic about it. Tell your kickers don't get involved. Just kick it and just start running toward the sideline.
All right. Well, that's an amen from me. I agree with everything you said. Do they scrap this? Where do they go from here? We all know the imperative is to reduce concussions, and the kickoff was the highest impact play in the game. Do you go? Is there a way to go back? Is there a way to modify this? Is there a way to fix it?
No, because today's kickers have made the play almost obsolete. Now you can move the kicker back. I think let's move the kicker back. Well, from where he's kicking off right now, he's booming it out of the field of play. You want it to return, leave it the way that it is, but just move the kicker back. Now he's probably can kick it to sometime within the 5-yard line. And now you got yourself a play. Now you have to return it, right? And I think that's about all you can do right now. I suspect the league will maybe adopt something like that. There's too many people want to keep this in the game, at least the kicker as part of it. We've always, in the 105-year history of our league, started off the game with a kick. I think for nostalgia and for posterity, you want to keep that in the game. You don't want to omit that. And let's face it, there are a lot of jobs on the line too. Like special teams coaches are fighting to keep this in the game because if you don't, then they'll be in the unemployment line and we won't have a need for special team coaches. And I don't think anybody wants that.
You played one of the highest impact positions in the NFL as a safety. When you look at the changes in the game from your era to today, how much different is it playing the safety position in terms of, even the way that you have to watch, the way that you tackle people, the way that you approach hitting guys? How much of a challenge is that to play your position, but to also play it within the confines of the, somewhat gentler NFL that we have today?
You just got to take the head out of the game. You can't lead with the crown of your helmet. You can't lead with the face mask. We used to always say, see what you hit. And then when you throw the head behind the guy, you end up landing on the back of their legs. So now they're calling that a hip drop tackle. You just got to take the head out of it. I would use shoulders. I would probably stay more healthy because then I'd just go for the ball. I'd always be going for the ball. Rarely would I look to separate the player from the ball once the ball's made contact with them. But back then, that's all I would do. I mean, I was trying to make it a physical game. I wanted receivers to know that if you were going to catch the ball over the middle of the field, you were going to have to pay. That's how we played. You had to be a physical player if you were going to stay on the field as a defensive player. Tackling still was at a premium then. The way that you were a striker of the ball carrier, your ability to force fumbles and turnovers were at a premium. Coaches will tell you that today. But you got to be a ball hawk. You got to go for the ball, and you cannot go for the hit, because even just for the appearance, even on the sideline, these quarterbacks kind of stay in the field of play, and at the last minute want to step out. You hit them, even in the field of play. If you blow them up, they're going to throw a flag at you, even though the hit is very much illegal. It's for whatever reason, they want to take the physicality out of the game. I think if they could turn it into a non-tackle sport, they probably would. But you and I both know that would be going a bridge too far.
Yeah, it would. I wonder sometimes what the game's going to look like in another 10 or 20 years, where we're headed. But yeah, it would be un-American if we were playing flag football. Solomon, one last quick one for you here. I'm a Bears fan. You can see I got Walter here on my desk. Yep. What do you think of Caleb Williams so far?
I love Caleb. I think he's progressing. There's no doubt about it. He's getting better each and every week. And more importantly, he's learning not to turn the ball over. He's learned that if you can protect the football with the team they've given him and that great defense led by their coach, Matt Eberflus, they're going to take the ball away. They're going to score still enough points because they run the ball effectively and efficiently, that they're going to be in every single game. It's about not turning it over. You don't have to be the hero. You just got to avoid becoming the villain. And in the 3 games that they've won, guess what? He hasn't turned it over. In the 2 games that they've lost, he turned it over multiple times. So I think he's learning how to win in the NFL, and that it ain't all about him. It's about the 53 guys on the team. And as long as he protects the football, they're going to be able to win.
Great stuff, Solomon. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure picking your brain on the NFL today. Lots of great stuff. Appreciate having you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Ricky. All the best to you. Take care.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.